Hello, everyone! Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while since the last episode, so maraming salamat for being here and listening again today. And we're back to Taglish episodes after some soul searching and reflecting on who I really want to serve with this work. And I realized that many of you listening today are exactly the people I had in mind when I started sharing these ideas. And lately napapansin ko rin sa conversations ko with some people kung gaano kabilis mag-shift ang mind into worry kapag may uncertainty sa paligid. And maybe napansin mo rin to, maybe your mind feels a little busier than usual. Or you're checking the news more often, you're feeling a bit heavier mentally than usual. Maybe you've experienced moments like this recently. Maybe you wake up in the morning and maybe even before your feet touch the floor, ayan na, your mind is already thinking about money, about work, about the future. Or maybe you're trying to relax at night, but the mind keeps going. Ayan, nagsuscroll pa din ng news, reading another article, thinking about what if this happens. And before you realize it, your body is tired, but your mind is still working overtime. If that sounds familiar, please know something very important, that you are not alone in this. Most of us were taught that when life gets harder, the answer is to think harder. But many of the biggest breakthroughs in my life didn't come from thinking more. They came from understanding the mind and learning how to quiet it. If you're an entrepreneur, leader, or professional navigating stress, uncertainty, and the challenges that come with growth, you're in the right place. In this podcast, I share realizations about life, work, and the mind, and how quieting the mind helps us think more clearly, make better decisions, and take the right action. Welcome to Realizations with Clarissa. Kahit very capable people, they experience this. This is a very human response when the world feels uncertain. And there's something important to understand. Worry itself is not the problem. In fact, sometimes worry is actually a signal that something needs our attention. Parang alam ng mind natin, it tells us, may kailangan tayong tingnan dito. May kailangan tayong paghandaan. So worry itself is not the enemy. The real problem begins when the worrying doesn't stop. When the mind keeps repeating the same thoughts again and again, when the what ifs keep running the whole day walang tigil, when the mind cannot switch off, that's when worry starts taking over our life instead of helping us respond wisely. And here's something interesting that most people don't realize. The stress we feel during uncertain times, it doesn't actually come from the future itself. It comes from the thoughts our mind creates about the future. Yung mga what-if stories na tumatakbo sa isip natin. What if things get worse? What if I'm not prepared? What if something bad happens? And when our thinking speeds up like this, everything can start to feel more threatening than it actually is. But when the mind settles, bumabalik ang clarity at calmness. I want to share something personal. There was a time in my life when I worried a lot. And my mind would keep thinking about different possibilities. What might happen? What might go wrong? What I should prepare for. And sometimes the thinking wouldn't stop, especially at night. May mga gabi na pagod na yung katawan ko, pero yung isip ko tuloy pa rin. Thinking, analyzing, imagining the worst case scenarios. And because the mind kept going, it made it difficult to sleep. And maybe you have experienced something like that as well. Kung nakakaranas ka ng ganito, please know it is very human. When the world feels uncertain, the brain tries to protect us by thinking more. Parang sinasabi ng isip natin, mag-isip ka para maging prepared ka. But sometimes, that protective instinct actually creates more stress instead of clarity. Now, here's why this matters. Even when the world feels uncertain, life still continues. You still have decisions to make. You still have people depending on you. May team kang umaasa sa'yo. May clients kang kailangang tulungan. May pamilya kang gusto mong suportahan. And the state of mind you bring into those situations affects everything. Your performance, your relationships, your well-being. So, learning how to steady your mind during uncertain times is not just helpful, it's a leadership skill. But here's the mistake many intelligent and responsible people make. They try to think their way out of uncertainty. Mas nag-iisip sila, mas nag-a-analyze, mas nag-worry. And it often looks like this kasi ito, nangyari din to sa akin ng maraming beses before. Yan, constantly checking the news, imagining worst-case scenarios, replaying what-if situations, talking about worries again and again, lalo na yung kausap mo, ganun din ang worry. And the mind believes something like this, that if I think about this enough, I will feel prepared. But the truth is, uncertainty cannot be solved by thinking about it repeatedly. And in fact, the more we feed those thoughts, the more unsettled the mind becomes. And we are always experiencing the feeling of our thinking in the moment. So when our thinking becomes fearful, the feelings follow. Hindi dahil nangyari na yung kinakatakutan natin, but because the mind is imagining it. So when thinking speeds up, emotions follow. And that's why people begin to experience things like, difficulty concentrating, tulala, lipad ang isip, mental fatigue, irritability, tension in conversations, and sometimes even trouble in sleeping, like what happened to me before. So, instead of becoming prepared, the mind becomes overloaded. Opposite yung nakukuha. Right? At kapag overloaded ang mind at kulang ka sa tulog, it's more difficult to respond wisely. Right? So, over time, even very capable people can start becoming something they don't want to be. Right? The constant worrier, the distracted professional, the mentally exhausted leader. So, even though they are strong and responsible individuals, right? They become that kapag sobrang overloaded na ang utak with worry and overthinking. And if your mind has been doing this lately, please don't judge yourself. Ganito talaga gumagana ang human mind kapag may uncertainty. Lahat tayo, our mind has been designed to act like that. It's just doing its thing. Now, let me share a simple metaphor. Imagine nagda-drive ka, through muddy water after a storm. Maputik, may puddle. Then, habang nagda-drive ka, the water is stirred up. Everything becomes cloudy. Hindi mo na makita ng malinaw yung daan. But when the water becomes still, kapag hindi na yan nagugulo, dinadaanan, hindi na nayayanig, when the water becomes still, the mud slowly settles to the bottom and the water clears on its own. And our mind works in a very similar way. When thinking is spinning fast, everything looks more threatening than it actually is. But when the mind settles, clarity returns naturally. Hindi mo kailangang pilitin. It just happens. Something that helps during uncertain times is learning how to let the mind settle. The real skill is learning how to let the mind settle and return to the present moment. This is where mental fitness and presence come together. So mental fitness strengthens how we respond to challenges, and presence brings our attention back to what is actually in front of us right now, instead of yung imagined futures. Kasi ang totoo, our power is always in the present moment. The present moment is the only place where we can experience life and the only place where we can take action. Hindi sa future na iniisip natin. Kasi hindi tayo makakagalaw from that imagined future that doesn't exist right now. So, what does this look like in practice? Instead of feeding worry, we begin to notice when the mind starts creating scary future stories. Mapapansin mo na lang, eto na naman yung isip ko. Ayan yung worry. Hindi ibig sabihin may mali sa'yo. It simply means the mind is doing what the mind does. It's just doing its thing. Then, instead of following the thought immediately, we pause. Take a breath. And bring our attention back to the present moment. What am I doing right now? What actually needs my attention today? Kasi doon tayo may magagawa. And knowing what truly needs our attention starts with a clear mind. And when people begin operating from a steadier mind, mas maayos ang response natin sa kung ano talaga ang may kailangan ng atensyon natin. So work performance improves, decisions become wiser, focus becomes stronger, relationships improve kasi mas present tayo with them, mas kalmado ang conversations, mas stable ang emotions, at mas nakakaramdam ng reassurance yung mga taong nasa paligid mo. And even personal well-being improves kasi less yung mental fatigue mo. Mas may inner calm ka. So, mas maayos din yung sleep mo. You begin becoming someone different. A steady leader, a clear-minded professional, a calm decision maker. Someone who still cares about what's happening in the world, but is not controlled by fear. Para lang lighthouse sa dagat. Kapag magulo ang dagat, malakas ang hangin, malaki ang alon, the light stays steady. Di nito pinipigilan ang storm. Right? Pero because the light is steady, yung mga barko can still find their way. And in many ways, our state of mind works like that too. Kapag mas steady ang isip natin, it creates a sense of stability for the people around us. Imagine being able to hear difficult news without being overwhelmed or being able to talk about uncertainty calmly. You continue to make wise decisions in work and life. And that kind of mental stability becomes your leadership advantage. For me personally, learning how to step back from stressful thinking changed how I experience uncertainty. Instead of being pulled into every worrying thought, I learned to let the mind settle. And when the mind settles, clarity returns naturally. Let me leave you with a simple practice. When you notice your mind imagining future scenarios, try this. Pause. Take 3 slow breaths. Then, remind yourself that these are thoughts about the future. Hindi pa to nangyayari. Then bring your attention back to what you are doing right now. What's in front of you that needs your attention right now? Madalas clarity returns when thinking slows down and the right action follows. So if you notice that your mind often goes into overthinking, stress, or worry like we talked about today, that's exactly the skill we train inside the 7-day mental fitness challenge. Inside the challenge, we practice simple daily exercises that help you notice stressful thinking patterns, shift your mental state intentionally, and respond to challenges with a positive mindset instead of feeling stressed, upset, or overwhelmed. So you can continue performing in your work, show up better for the people around you, and protect your well-being even during uncertain times. You can learn more about the 7-day mental fitness challenge through the link in the description. Kung nakaka-relate ka sa episode na to, follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. And if you know someone who might find this helpful, feel free to share it with them. And thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next episode of Realizations with Clarissa. And keep building your mental fitness. Because a stronger mind helps us live better and work better.